Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Michaela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Michaela. I'm very excited to have you on my channel, so don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today is story time, or the day of our chapter exchange. I give you a chapter, you give me a chapter. If you're writing with me and you wish to exchange chapters, then send your writings your writings or your chapter with written permission to writewithmichaela@gmail.com. And I will post the email address at the end of the video and in the description below. I'm looking forward to reading your chapters. All chapters or writing prompts read on the channel, whether they are mine or another writer's work, are copyright protected material, and no one may use any part in writing their own stories. The story is PG-13, so if you're under 13 years of age, you need parental guidance. The story is in its rough draft stage, just as the last stories and writing prompts we've heard. The title of this story is Elementals, and today we are reading chapter 5. If you would like to read along, then send to the email I stated earlier and request a PDF of the chapter. Make sure you are specific. I also will give a PDF of any writing prompt or any vocabulary. Now let's start Elementals chapter 5. Not a dream. Alex woke up again. "You're not supposed to bring people with you," said the horse. "Surely I'm not supposed to go back and forth," yelled Alex. "How does this work?" "It is different for—" "Alex!" came Sarge's voice. "Sarge, where are you?" asked Alex as she stood up and limped forward. "Not in a good place," said Sarge. "I have water on all sides, and this stuff stinks." Alex followed his voice, but her limping was slowing her down. She got to him the same time as Michaels. Michaels was using his flashlight. "There you are," he said as he shined the light in her face. "Where's the stick?" she asked near panic. She thought that might be the only way home. He had it stuck under his belt, so he handed it over. Alex knew that Michaels was questioning things about the stick, but he didn't press her yet. "Hey, Sarge, you used to do the long jump," said Michaels. "This looks to be 8 feet across or so. How far can you jump?" "I have no room to run to jump," stated Sarge. "Just hang on," stated Alex. "Why the hell you guys decided to join me in my dream, I don't know. Maybe you joined my nightmare, but it is mine. At least I haven't found Freddy Krueger yet. But there are definitely some bad actors in this dream." "I told you before that this is no dream," stated the horse. Michael swung the light to the horse. "A talking horse?" "Oh, it gets better," said Alex. "Gnomes have rope traps. They use the stick to lure something, so the stick is food for something I probably don't want to meet. There's a giant walking around, and a hummingbird attacked me." "The bird was a friend who was trying to warn you about your company, Emery," stated the horse. "Whatever. I just want to go home and stay, and this idiot had to pick up the damn stick," replied Alex. "I didn't know," replied Michaels as he tilted his head to the side and shrugged his shoulders. "That's all fine, but I'm still stuck out here," called Sergeant Davis. Alex swirled the stick. "I want you to think that you're in a Harry Potter movie instead of my dream." "What?" asked Sergeant Davis. "Wingardium Leviosa," said Alex as she swirled the stick in her left hand. Sarge rose in the air. He flailed about. Alex, don't put me down in the water." "Don't send me bad images," she warned. "Whatever you think in a dream happens. Except, of course, seeing through walls. This dream has reserved that for Superman alone." She swirled the stick some more. Sarge was nervous as he sank and rose and spiraled and swerved. Michaels held his breath and puffed air in his cheeks. When Sarge was finally on the ground beside them, Michaels helped him up. "This is not a dream," reiterated the horse. "Yes, but horses don't talk," stated Michaels. "I'm not a horse. I'm just in this form," stated the horse. "Okay, then. Come out of this form," stated Michaels smugly. Alex glanced at Michaels and knew he felt he was pressing the horse for the truth. "A spell was cast on me," replied the horse. "The wizard or someone else will have to undo the spell." Alex watched Michaels as he absorbed the information. She felt sooner or later they would realize they had somehow entered her dream. "Come, we've got to get out of here," stated Sergeant Davis. "We need to find Stellers, Devers, and Griffin." Sarge?" started Michaels. He motioned and shone the flashlight around. "Look around you. We aren't exactly in Kansas anymore." "We weren't in Kansas to start with," huffed Sarge. "You can go wherever you want," replied Alex. "I'm going back to sleep." "Sleep is not good for a concussion," stated Michaels. "No wonder you lost your memory." He shined the light on her bandage. "My memory is fine," Alex said with a clenched jaw. "I just keep popping back and forth. I finally got home again, and you picked up the stick. I was going to burn it somehow." Sarge looked at Alice, and then he made a face at Michaels. Alex knew Sarge well enough to know that he was thinking she was normally level-headed and rarely got upset, but here she was very aggravated, and she was taking it out on her team. That was the last thing a good cop or detective wanted to do. Alex felt beyond frustration. She wanted to go back home and sleep in a real bed. "We need to get you to a hospital," Sarge said. "They need to look at your head, maybe even do some scans." Alex remembered the map. She took it out and held one of the corners. Michaels grabbed a corner and shined the light on the skin. "This is a map," stated Alex. "I believe we are somewhere in here." She pointed with a stick at first. Then she slid the stick in her back pocket. She didn't want to go somewhere else on the map, and she hadn't totally figured out the stick yet. Sarge took the other two corners. He stared at the map a long time. "I don't recognize it as being part of any map I know, and I study maps as a hobby." He looked at Alex. To Michaels he said, "To believe we have somehow ended up in her dream is probably the easiest for now." Then he looked at the talking horse. Oh no, hell no. We can't be in another world. I have a wife and kids back." He motioned behind himself. "How do we go home?" Alex sighed. "I don't know. First time I went back, I woke up in bed. The next 2 times I went to sleep here and was awake there. I don't know how this works. I was thinking of sleeping without the stick, but..." "Oh no," said the horse. "That is your wand, and it should always be with you." Sarge had never lost it before, but it looked to Alex like he was about to lose it now. Sarge looked at Michaels. "You okay?" "Yeah, I just live in the moment," replied Michaels. He held up his flashlight. "I want to look at her head in the morning. In the morning we can scout around to see if we can narrow down our position, and then we can decide what to do." "You sound like a sergeant," replied Davis. "I'm just doing what I was trained to do in the Marines," replied Michaels. Alex limped her way back to her tree, and she rubbed her shoulder. She laid down. Everyone followed her and then tried to get comfortable on the ground. They would look at her head in the morning before she went to sleep. Before she went to sleep, she remembered to warn them that there might be snakes. Michaels asked if she knew what kind, and Alex replied the kind that bites. But then she apologized and said the horse killed the snake not too far from their position. They could look at what kind in the morning. A couple of hours after Michaels left to find water, Alex was starting to stir. "Do you remember who you are?" asked Sarge cautiously. "Huh?" Of course I remember who I am, said Alex as she sat up. She looked around. Damn. Oh, man, she said with a scowl on her face. When you wake up from a dream, you're supposed to wake up. The horse tried to tell you last night that this was not a dream, replied Sarge. Now, have you gotten any clues since you've been here about why you're here? Alex thought. I think I remember a few things. The gnomes were counting, and I'm number 4. That is correct, replied the horse. The gnomes, as you call them, have brought 3 of the elementals through the portal before you. Only our enemies have captured all 3. I was spying to try to learn where our enemies are holding them. We think they're in the northern stronghold. Sarge had looked at the horse as it spoke. He turned his attention back to Alex. She was a professional and would refocus. Alex stated the details of what happened since she had her back at the tree. She still didn't connect following Eddie Von Nell into the woods to standing with her back to the tree in this new world. Alex remembered the details of the forest before the trap and then the rope net yanking her up. Then she remembered the book. She reached back in her back pocket and retrieved the page she had torn out. She opened it up and stared at the picture. She hadn't decided who she wanted to share the picture with if she woke up with the page, but now the dream was helping her decide. After a few minutes, she handed over the page. Lieutenant Michaels walked up. He glanced at the picture. Sarge, I want to see that after I look at Alex's head. Sarge just nodded. You found water? Asked the horse. I tapped a tree, stated Michaels. Who knew that I would disassemble my flashlight to use as a water tap? It worked pretty well, too. He knelt down near Alex. Okay, let me see your head. Do you know how you got this? I think the giant dropped me, stated Alex. I don't really remember. I was in a net high in the tree. A giant came, grabbed me. The next thing I knew, I was in a gnome-sized prison. I couldn't even sit up on the bed. I had to get on the floor to be able to sit up. Michaels was barely listening, as he was undoing the bandage, and Alex knew Michaels well enough to know that. She thought about stating that she was sitting on the moon to prove he wasn't listening, but the story was already strange, so they might just believe that ridiculous statement. Ow! Said Alex as she tried to duck away. Your hair is matted to the bandage, stated Michaels. Alex knew that Michaels was looking at Sarge and making some kind of face because she saw Sarge glance at him before he looked back across to her. Do you remember anything else? Pressed Sarge. How did you get out of the little prison? Alex told them what happened, including all the memories she had thought of to help her with her escape, and the movies that didn't help her. She told them about Emery and her memories of her cousin. She even told them her cousin's turn to doing wrong was one of the main things that helped her realize that she wanted to be a cop. When she stopped talking, Lieutenant Michaels had not finished. Michaels was threading a needle with dental floss. Sarge started to cringe, but he proceeded with some summaries. Okay, if I understand this, you ran away from the good guys into the custody of the bad guys. A friend that was in the form of a hummingbird warned you not to go with the bad guy, and even your memory from your childhood and early adulthood was against you trusting the bad guys, and still you did not listen? You can't afford to make mistakes like that. Ow! Said Alex with a raised voice as she tried to pull away. Don't move, said Michaels quickly. Alex raised her hand to try to feel what Michaels was doing. Sarge quickly leaned over and grabbed her hand. What are you doing? Asked Alex. I feel like you're putting a needle in my head. He has put a needle in your head several times, said the horse. Don't move, said Michaels before she could turn to look at the horse. Look at me, said Sarge. We were talking about mistakes. It's not every day that your allies plant a spy in the form of a flying horse at just the right place and time for you to escape. Why didn't you listen to the warnings? Ow! said Alex again. Sarge gripped her arm tighter. Alex realized that he wasn't saying mistakes of a rookie. He was trying to get her mind on something else. Granted, she had made mistakes in the real or non-dream world, and a flying horse wouldn't be in her path every day, especially not one with connections to a wizard who could send wind. What Sarge was telling her was she needed to learn the new world, and learn it quickly. She looked in Sarge's eyes and concentrated on the conversation. Associating my cousin's poor choices with someone I don't know is not a good practice. True in our world, stated Sarge. But what if this world parallels ours? What if every bad guy you've arrested or brought in has a double here? He glanced at the horse. I know that my master says there are no coincidences, started the horse. I would not go so far to say that everyone has a double. I think the memories she had about her cousin were prior to meeting Emery, and the memory is more why she should have avoided him, not his looks or mannerisms. Sarge thought about that. Ow! Said Alex again. She tried to move her arms, but Sarge's grip was too strong. Are you almost done? Geez, you would think my whole scalp had split in two. Almost done, stated Michaels. Tying the knot now. Sarge looked at the horse and asked, The hummingbird a different form too? I don't know if it was a different form or charmed, replied the horse. Alex pushed her eyebrows together. If the horse didn't know, how was she supposed to know? Michaels finished and cut off the end after he tied it. Then he motioned to Sarge to hand him the page. This picture is amazing, he said. He looked at Alex several times as he studied the page. Her likeness is unmistakable. In fact, if I didn't know better, I would have bet an artist had Alex sit down so he could draw her. Sarge said, Well, for now, I will resolve myself to being in the foreign world. The horse said something about portals, so I want us to keep our ears peeled about them. He paused a moment and then added, Of course, I don't want to go through a portal to an entirely different world. I need to make sure that I go home. Then he told Michaels that it seemed that Alex needed him here because she was not accepting the fact that she wasn't in a dream. Okay, said Sarge. One little bottle of water isn't going to last long. Look at the map and see if you scouted enough to know where we are. Michaels handed the page back to Alex, and she handed him the map. Alex once again showed him where she thought she had touched the map with the wand. Michaels told them that he felt she was fairly accurate about their location. Then he mentioned that he hadn't scouted enough to know the scale of the map, and he didn't see any scale indicated on the map. He studied the map for several minutes. Then he and Sarge discussed maps for a few minutes. And he stated that when he looked at the enemy maps, there was usually a legend of some kind, and even if he didn't know the language, he could figure some things out. This map didn't have a legend either. Sarge agreed that there were usually a legend and a scale, and he also didn't see either. After a few minutes, Michael was fairly confident that the nearest town or village lay southeast of them. They would have to head straight south past the poisonous water and then veer towards the village. Of course, knowing there was a village didn't tell them who lived there, if they were allies or enemies. Michaels admitted that as a Marine he had knowingly headed towards the enemy's village if he was low on food or water, and generally not everyone in the village was of the same mindset. They could count on that this time, which meant if the village had allies, they would need to watch for enemy spies. If the village had enemies, they would lay low and watch for possible allies. Everyone understood. Michaels glanced at the horse. He said to the horse, You know the land better than any of us, and it is always good to consult the local expert. From the map, I feel the nearest village or town is southeast of us. Is that right? Yeah, southeast of us. Do you know anything about this place? He pointed to the map and showed the horse. The horse slowly nodded his head. That is Sumner. It used to be a vibrant village. Of course, that was before the enemies caused the land to poison the water here. We may not find any allied there, but I wouldn't count them all as enemies either. They are wary to truly trust and swing the door both ways. That makes them double dangerous, stated Michaels and Sarge in unison. We will tell no one our mission, stated Sarge. Not that I know what the mission is, he pointed at Alex. And no one can see the stick. Alex remembered the recipe. She pictured it in her mind and soon held a small folded piece of paper. Then she said, and memorize the map. It belonged to Emery and his family, so we can't keep it with us or they will find us. No, stated the horse. The map was in my saddlebags when I arrived. The wizard cast a charm on it, so if they pointed to certain locations, he would get our spies to check the locations out. We need to find the other 3 elementals, and the map belongs to the wizard, not Emery or our enemies. Alex just closed her eyes to herself. She could hear Sarge telling her that a special map would not land in her lap every day either. Alex saw that Sarge took in what the horse said, and then he went back to looking at the strange map, or a land that was star-shaped. After Sarge looked at the map, he agreed that seemed the best plan. No other village was closer. Most were over twice as far away. He stated that from the map he could not discern where the gnomes might be, and he repeated that the horse had said portal and Alex had said gnomes. Finally, he concluded that from the bits of conversation, he just knew the 2 things had a connection. He would figure this out and return to his wife and kids. As they started walking, Michaels and Sarge noticed Alex limping, so they stopped again. Michaels looked at Alex's ankle. He used part of the water to rinse it off. Then he had Sarge hold her as he cut a shallow mark between the teeth marks. He squeezed out some blood. At first, the blood was black. Alex let out a scream when he first cut, but then she squeezed Sarge's hand as she watched the cut bleed. Once the blood oozed red, Michaels used the rest of the water to rinse it again. Then he took off a strip of his shirt and wrapped it around her ankle. Michael went back and tapped the tree again just to be sure they had some water. Alex rode the horse, with Michaels helping her up. The horse told them that when they entered the village, one of them needed to ride. The general consensus was Alex would ride, but the horse thought that would draw too much attention to her. Sarge could ride a motorcycle, but that was very different from a horse, so he suggested it should be Michaels or Alex. Still, they didn't know the scale of the map, and therefore they could not guess how long it would take them to get to the village, so that decision could wait. The sun rose in the east and headed west. Michaels mused aloud that it could be north and south, and that he just assumed east to west based on the map, which side was the top and the bottom. Alex realized that just because in their world people drew and printed maps with north at the top, did not in any way mean that the people in this world did the same thing. Nothing needed to be the same. In fact, in their world, horses didn't talk, much less speak English. She drifted off into thought. She thought about her uncle's farm and how a talking, flying horse would have been a great thing to have. Maybe the horse could have even told her something about her cousin, so she could have prevented him from turning to crime. Alex glanced at Sarge and knew he thought about his wife. He wouldn't want her to worry about him, but they all knew she would. And Alex wondered how much Sarge had worried about her. She thought about asking Sarge to talk about things, but she didn't want him to focus on that just yet. They still needed to figure things out. She glanced at Michaels. He looked totally fine, but of course he had been a Marine. She glanced to his belt and saw the pouch he carried. She knew a lot of cops made fun of him for all the things he carried. She hadn't been one of them, and now he had used his dental floss on her wound, and part of his own shirt on her ankle. She was very grateful. Alex occasionally brushed her hand along the base of the horse's neck. The weather was nice to be walking or riding outside. She enjoyed it. She still felt she was in a dream. But if not a dream, then certainly a vacation. She didn't have a schedule or a destination. She didn't have a criminal to follow or find. Who was the last criminal she found? Eddie Von Nail? She had found his drug lab, but before she could arrest him, another drug lord was hunting him. The drug lord's henchmen accused Eddie of betraying their lord. Eddie started running. Alex wasn't far behind, but she made sure the people he betrayed weren't behind her. She didn't want either side to catch her in the middle of them. Her mind started playing through the chase. Then she remembered the drastic change in the surrounding woods. That change scared her, and she had to get her bearings. Now she knew that she had gone through the portal. She wondered if Eddie had gone through as well. Alex blurted her question as the sun was sinking below the horizon. The day had been quiet, and Alex's question startled them all. "I would not know," said the horse. "It is possible." "We caught Eddie," stated Sarge. "He is in custody, as are the thugs chasing him. You taped the whole thing. You pursued just as you said, but then we lost your signal. There was no location, no radio, nothing. You just disappeared. I've only had one other detective disappear on me like that. Colt Costere. The bad guys knocked him out, stripped him, and moved him. We worked a long time before we picked up his trail, and 6 months to find him. He still didn't know who he was for 6 months after we found him. At least you know I'm Sarge, but I doubt we would have ever found your trail." They decided to stop for the night while they had a little light. They would start again in the morning. Alex walked around the camp a little. She knew she shouldn't stress her ankle, so this was the best time, since she could sit down any time, and she knew Michaels would look at her head and ankle in the morning. They were all feeling their hunger. They had a little water from Michael's water bottle, but not enough to satisfy. The horse told Alex that when they arrived at town, she would need to use her magic to change the looks of their clothes so they would blend in. Alex thought that was probably how Emery knew she wasn't from this world. Then the horse said, "They probably found the bridle the first night you left, so they will spread the word for people to be on the lookout for a horse thief. So you will need to change the color of my coat as well." "I can't do all that," said Alex. "That's why I'm telling you now, so you can practice," put in the horse. "You had your glimpse, so you have access to your magic." Alex rolled her eyes and shook her head. "Where's that picture of you?" asked Michaels. "She wouldn't want to dress like that until she has full command of her magic," stated the horse. "Maybe not," stated Michaels, "but it would give her an idea of style." "Probably better than that would be the enemy's clothes," started Sarge. "What was his name? Emery?" "If she wanted people to think that she sided with the enemy," put in the horse. Alex looked between the three. She felt like asking Sarge and Michaels if they had been in dreams like this before, because they had ideas of what to do. She was a detective and should have thought of those things, but she was slow on the uptake at the moment. Alex ran ahead. Alex ran her hand down the wand as she closed her eyes and pictured the clothes of the nuns. The girls' clothes were actually similar to Emery's mother's clothes, just they were brighter. Emery's didn't wear the hats the gnomes wore, but that didn't surprise her from all the fairy tale books she had read. She swirled the wand around and pointed it towards Sarge. He looked just like he walked out of Little House on the Prairie, straw hat and all. After a few minutes, she looked at the horse. The horse nodded. "That would do. Now, can you do more than one at a time?" Alex tried Michaels next. He looked the same, except his clothes were slimmer. Michaels looked at his hands as they stuck way out the end of his sleeves. His pants looked like they were high waters. "I think you have my height wrong. I'm taller than Sarge." Alex knew that he was somewhat teasing her, but he truly wanted longer clothes. The problem was, now that Alex saw him, it was hard to imagine something else. "I will try more tomorrow," she said. "I'm leaving Sarge in his clothes because if we have to sleep in the town, it wouldn't help our case any if we were in different clothes during the night than our day clothes just appeared. And then our day clothes just disappeared. They thought that was true, so they lay down on the ground, the hard ground, to go to sleep. Last night, Commander Strident's group had headed back to their stronghold to consult with the leaders there and to use stronger locator spells for the horse. The locator spell pointed to a horse in Commander Strident's heart. Emery threw up his hand. I'm not accusing you. No, but the spell doesn't lie, said Commander Strident. So is she here? They didn't know. So first they interrogated the elementals they already held to see if they could get a position on the one that just entered. When that didn't work, Commander Strident sent his top aides throughout his troops to filter through them, and then he sent Emery south with 50 troops. His instructions were to take the gnomes as prisoners because it seemed Alex had come from them or through their interference. Emery gathered the group, and this night they settled on the plains just where Emery had met Alex. In the fading light, they searched a little and would search for clues again in the morning before they headed east into the gnome village. Later in the night, one gnome brought the message to the gnomes that the enemy camped to their west. Some thought the enemy would move south as it had done before, but many more weren't sure. They discussed once again whether or not the recent elemental had disappeared out of the net, if only for a few brief seconds. They decided that it was safer to assume she had. It was also safer to assume the enemy was not just patrolling, but they were looking for this elemental, so they would need to hide their village. Several left out of the village to disassemble the portal for now, and several others went to find the Green Witch to ask how they could find the fourth elemental before the enemy did. Okay, writers, that is the end of Chapter 5. Leave a comment on how you would feel if you had been Sarge as Alex magically lifted him out of the water. Leave a comment on if you would let Michael sew your cut together with dental floss. Leave a comment on if you would want to go to a village where they would swing the door both ways. Idiom alert, idiom alert. Swing the door both ways concerning their loyalty. Join me Tuesday for some jargon and your cave. Join me Wednesday for our book club discussion of 1984. Join me Friday for Chapter 6 of Elementals. Visit my website, bymichaela.com, and read some character bios. If you read some, then leave a comment on which ones you have read. All your comments will help us start conversations and build our community. Keep all comments respectful, and remember that someone else's perspective can help you with your writing. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and the bell so we can continue to write together, and other people will have a higher chance of finding this video and this channel, since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, please share it with them. This is Michaela with Write with Michaela. Bye for now.